More than a decade after the O.J. Simpson murder trial captivated people around the world, another murder case found its way onto our TV screens, and another name became infamous. In 2008, a missing toddler from a quiet Orlando suburb became the focus of international news. Her mother's name was Casey Anthony, and her trial for that little girl's death would grip the entire nation. Act 1. The family, the disappearance. The Anthony family looked like any other American family. A cop, a nurse, 2 kids, and then a daughter who had a baby of her own. Nothing about that sounds alarming, does it? But at the center of this case was a beautiful little girl, and she was missing. What we did know, what the whole world came to know, was that while that baby was missing, her mother was out partying. Not a month goes by, not a single one, where someone doesn't stop on the street and ask, "What do you think really happened to Kaylee?" On June 16th, 2008, George Anthony kissed his granddaughter goodbye. At 12:50 in the afternoon, he never saw her again. Casey told her mother she was going to spend the night with a babysitter, a woman named Sammy. There was no Sammy. The body of Kaylee Marie Anthony had been wrapped in a Winnie the Pooh blanket and thrown into a littered swamp. In a littered swamp, like she was just another piece of trash. Act 2. The trial begins. By the time Casey Anthony walked into that courtroom, the public had already made up their minds. She was guilty, full stop. At least, that's what millions of people believed. But the job of a defense attorney isn't to win in the court of public opinion. It's to win in a court of law. So, Jose Baez walked into that courtroom with one mission: destroy everything the prosecution built and plant the seed of doubt. How does a mother wait 30 days before reporting her child missing? The answer, according to the defense, was simple. She never was missing. Kaylee Anthony, they claimed, drowned in the family's swimming pool. And the defense didn't stop there. They claimed Casey had been sexually abused as a child by her own father, that she had been raised to lie, that she was a victim before she was ever a suspect. Whether any of that was true, the jury would have to decide. Act 3. The evidence. Witness after witness took the stand, and they all said the same thing. They never saw Casey cry. They never saw her search. They never saw her worried. She told them Kaylee was at Disney World with the nanny, at the beach with the nanny. There was no nanny. Photos emerged of Casey Anthony dancing on tables, laughing, living her life, while her daughter, a 2-year-old little girl, was somewhere out there, gone. The trunk of Casey's car told a story of its own. Investigators described a smell that no one who encounters it ever forgets: the smell of decomposition. Her own mother, a nurse, confirmed it. Her father, a former cop, confirmed it. That trunk smelled like a dead body. And then there was the duct tape, found on the lower half of a small child's skull, wrapped around her face. The medical examiner was direct. There is no child that should have duct tape on its face when it dies. Computer searches revealed the family's browser had been used to look up chloroform. The prosecution theorized Casey had used it to sedate Kaylee so she could go out, be free. And something went terribly wrong. Act 4. The chaos. If you thought the evidence was dramatic, the courtroom itself was something else entirely. Lawyers snapping at each other, eye rolls across the counsel table, profanity in the hallways, a witness flipping the middle finger on the stand, one attorney sentenced to jail mid-trial. This was the murder trial of the century. But beneath all that theater, a jury was watching, and they were paying attention to something the prosecution may have underestimated: reasonable doubt. Act 5. The verdict. After 5 weeks of testimony, after 37 expert witnesses, after closing arguments that left the nation breathless, the jury deliberated. It has been brought to my attention that the jury has reached a verdict. The courtroom went quiet. You could hear the helicopters circling overhead. As to the charge of murder, not guilty. 25 floors below the courthouse, the crowd gasped. Aggravated child abuse, not guilty. Aggravated manslaughter, not guilty. The only conviction? 4 counts of lying to law enforcement. That's what they got. Legal experts would argue the prosecution overreached. They went for murder 1, the death penalty, when the evidence may only have supported manslaughter. Had they charged her differently, the outcome might have been different. But they didn't, and the jury followed the law. But out of all that outrage came something real. In 2012, Florida passed Cayley law, making it a felony for a parent to fail to report a missing child. Several other states followed. That little girl from Osceola County changed the law. 2 people know what happened that day in June 2008. One of them is gone. The other one walks free. If I could ask Casey Anthony one question, I wouldn't ask her what happened. I wouldn't expect the truth. I'd ask her, how do you sleep? What haunts you, Casey? I'm Your Name. Thank you for watching. And somewhere out there, Cayley still deserves an answer. If this moved you, subscribe, share, and drop a comment, because this conversation isn't over.